Welcome back to the garage, guys. I'm Damien and this is the Binder Builder. In the last couple of videos you've seen me design my tube chassis, bought some material, cut them, cleaned them, and started installing them on the body. And the last video ended as I finished bolting the box to the body. Well, as promised, today I'm going to be finishing up the top section of the chassis with a lot of time lapse and giving you a sneak peek how the whole thing is going to look when I'm done. But there's a lot to cover, so click that like button. Let's jump right in. While I originally ordered enough 2x6 to be able to complete the whole pan as I wanted it, with the subtle changes I made, I needed some more tube. So I took some measurements and headed to my favorite metal place to pick up some 2x4. And with measurements in hand, I trimmed it to size. And after securing it in place at the front of the footwell and making sure it was centered, I took some measurements and made sure it was square as well. Then I found the angles that would connect the sides with the front. And then cut the short pieces out of the 2x6. After cleaning up the cuts, I held the pieces in place to ensure they would work. Then I moved back to the large size pieces. I wanted to cut the angles in them and ensure the shorty tubes would connect the side tubes with the front tube. This is where I actually had a pretty decent idea on how to mount these side tubes to the pan. So bear with me as I break out the hole saw and cut some sleeves. Alright guys, I just wanted to give you a little heads up on what I'm doing. So once this is bolted onto the pan and it's plated, how would I get to these bolts? You can't, right? So what I did is I used my hole saw and I cut out 1.25 inches, actually just over 1.25 inches. And then I took 1.25 inch pipe or tube that I have left over from the light bar. And my thought is I will put it all in there. I have a 3/8 bolt through there because that's the size of the hole, and I got a 3/8 washer on it as well, and that just so happens to fit over that. So what I can do is and you notice it is oversized and I could wiggle it around. I'm not too worried about that because what I want to do is I want to center it up and then weld it. I'm going to tack weld it first and then seam weld it all the way around, grind it smooth. And that'll make it possible with a 1/2 inch drive with a impact socket, which is, I believe, is the thickest sockets I can get. I can get it up in there and unscrew it. But yeah, so what I'm doing right now is I'm cutting a bunch of these little tubes, deburring them, and then slowly but surely I will be welding these in. When I weld these in, I'll also make sure that they stay 2 inch because they can sproing, if you know what I mean. Basically, when you cut it out, it has some tension, basically some memory in the straight, flat metal that it used to be, and it gets sproing out of place. So quite literally, I will just use my clamp, as you'll see. Then I could weld around the inside as well. But then again, on this side with this gap, I'll just simply fill that with weld and then grind it completely smooth. And so basically, it'll just have nice little places where I could reach in and unbolt it. But anyway, that's my plan. That's what I'm doing. Back to the time lapse. Well, I hope that made sense, but if not, let me show you. First, I wire wheeled all the short pieces of 1.25 inch tube. Then after securing the box to the bench vise, and after squeezing it back to 2 inches, I tack welded the sleeves and then fully welded them into the box tube. All right, just checking out. This is the first piece, my kind of test piece to see if it would work. And what I did is I squeezed it in the vise to get my 2 inches outside. Then I welded in the tube right inside there, cleaned it up. I also welded along the back side or the inside. But yeah, that looks Pretty good. Now, when I plate this off, I can still get to the bolts. I'll show you what that looks like. This is one size higher, but yeah, that goes on like so. Go right through. Hey, where'd you go? There you go. Make it go faster by doing it that way, but there you go. Yeah, and also back it out when I want to. Now, when that gets welded all together, everything's cleaned up and painted, and should look fairly nice. So anyway, I only got to do this about 12 more times. Once they're all welded up and cleaned, I can bolt them onto the bug. I'm going to weld them on the bug and then brace it and so forth to make sure that they're flat. Pull it off, final weld, cap it. Also, we'll be doing the front part underneath the front footwell. But anyway, that's where I'm at. Let's keep going. So I'm going to zip through this the best I can. Step 1, cut more sleeves. Step 2, wire wheel them. Step 3, start installing them. As you can see, the socket fits inside the sleeves pretty snug, but I ended up wrapping it with some painter's tape to get it super snug fit. As the Germans would say, good and tight. With that, I pulled out the welder and started tack welding everything in. Satisfied with it so far, I welded everything in place. Now for cutting and grinding the excess. This is why I use slightly oversized holes. This way I could ensure the weld would penetrate sub-flush, giving the sleeves secure welds even after grinding them smooth. After cleaning them up, I cleaned the cuts. Then I bolted them back under the body. I wanted to weld everything together while bolted to the body to make sure that the body bolts are positioned properly, because it would really suck if they didn't line up after all this. With the tube back in place, I cut some internal gussets for the corners and began welding them in place. I'm also welding the tube pieces together as well. Oh, I did change out to my 035 wire because all this heavy welding was eating my 023 quick. Once the rocker tube was in place and set, I cut and welded 2 pieces of 1x2 to brace things in place while I pulled the box back out to check for square and flatness. Once the bracing tube was secure, I again unbolted the box from the body and removed it. Once out, I seam welded the junctions between the 2x6s, both inside and out. Then after clearing my bench and putting the chassis up on it, I ground them smooth. I needed to smooth out the welds so that I could make sure that the structure was still flat. So I moved the bench out of the way, swept, and then laid the chassis structure on the garage floor. It's the flattest thing I have. As you see, I just welded up the chassis, or the upper part of the chassis, and I ground it all down smooth and flat. Now, then I put it on the garage floor to see how actually flat it is. Check this out. All right, it appears pretty flat, but if I were to step on it, about 1/8 of an inch, maybe. Let's go to this side. Less than that. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm really happy with that. Let's keep going. And part of me is like, yeah, why shouldn't it work? I mean, but then you're like, I don't have a frame table. I don't have fixtures. I don't have anything holding it down, nothing. I literally just bolted it to the bug and welded it up and hoped everything worked out. So I keep going, see how this goes. But continuing on, it's time to finish off this structure by adding a 2x4 into the forwardmost part of the cab. So I pulled the 2x4 out from where it was secured to the body, and after holding it up to the chassis and measuring things out, it was time to trim and install it in place. Then after cleaning the slack from the cuts, I slid it into place. It fit perfectly, so I measured out the center and marked it to match the ramp of the 2x6 side pieces. All right, now that the main structure is sort of done, I got to put on the front cap, where my bulkhead's going to weld up to, where the Napoleon hat normally is. Let me show you what I'm thinking of. So, as you guys know, I've got these two spots here. Now, I took some 4x4 and I cut it so that I could line it up like so, right? Now, this is coming up off because I got some stuff on the bench. But anyway, you can tell it's equal, which makes me very happy. But anyway, so and then this side is over here, bloop, like that, right? The thing is this is 2x6 and this is 2x4, and I've already drawn these in there, so you see what I'm going to do. I'm going to basically cut from here to here, and from that to that. I'm going to plate this kind of like with the same slope. And how do I make this come into a flat plate or a regular box? Doing the same thing. I'm just going to cut out this triangle. I don't know if this is actually going to work, but it's worth a try. If not, I'm out 3 feet of 2x4. But if it comes out, I think it'll look pretty cool. See? So anyway, now that I've got this piece ready to go on here, and I cut out these joints here, I'm not going to screw anything up. I'm leaving about 5 inches in between here. This is where my bulkhead's going to go. You know, my bulkhead's going to go up and over there. But anyway, it's going to go through. I'm going to notch this out, and it's going to be interesting. You'll see. I hope it works out. But anyway, so yeah, let's cut these out and see if I can make a flat plate that will basically bridge that. It might not come out as good, but we'll see. All right, let's keep going. Forgive me, but I must not have recorded this cutting out the slices of the 2x4. But regardless, I did, it worked, and now I'm putting the chassis back on the floor to permanently attach the 2x4. Oh, quick tip. Cleaning weld slag off the plasma cut edges is very important. If you don't, you'll never get a clean weld. Once the cuts were clean, I lined everything up and attached the 2x4 to the main structure. Then I leaned it up against my bench and seam welded everything together. Looking good. All right, that's all welded up top and bottom. Now I am going to I got to keep building it up. And right now the next thing is I'm going to plate all those cutouts with this 1/8 by 5. I got to cut it down to the length or the width that I need in order for it to fit right in those little spots all the way down. It's going to come down, and then I'm going to be tapering to nothing, to just the box tube. Now I know I kind of teased you about having this video including the lower section or the bottom section of the box of the chassis, and this is the upper section. So let me just show you what I'm planning there with some more 2x4 box. All right, so basically that the box tube, the other 2x4 is going to go sit right on top, and go to all the way back. Now, if you guys have ever looked really close at a torsion tube on the pan, the torsion tube seems to be above the floor just a skosh. It kind of goes up to the torsion tube just a skosh. So not too much. I'm not sure how much that is. So my thought was this. So the 2x4 is actually going to be the replacement for my tunnel. And then on the back, I am going to bend a U out of my roll cage tubing, 1 3/4, and that's going to be my new frame horns. The torsion tube will be connected to the top, and then I'm going to remove these side things, and then all of that is going to be regular tube, like round tube. More of the roll cage tubing, just like I mentioned in an earlier video. But not just that, then I have a nice sturdy place to bring tube off of. So basically the round tube is going to go from the box down here to like a really shallow boat side. So it's going to keep sloping down to the middle to connect with the 2x4 right there. And then I got another piece of 2x4 going to go across this whole piece. I'm going to replace that 2x1. It's going to cup and saddle and stuff like that. But anyway, that's basically the thought of how this is all going to go. And then my bulkhead for my front suspension is going to mount right there. All nice and happy. So yeah. All right, well, that's where I'm going to stop this video. I'll be welding in all the ramps on the sides and the front on the next video, as well as completing, hopefully, the bottom section of the tube chassis. But I wanted to thank you guys for the engagement. I'm grateful that you guys come watch my videos. And with that said, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And I will see you on the next one. I'm Damien, and this is the Binder Book.